Have you noticed a huge uptick in number of cases of a disease known as main character syndrome? Now, you're not going to find that name in the DSM, but it is very real. We see it every day, especially on the malignant digital tumor known as TikTok, where people act insane in public for a few of those sweet, sweet likes. But it's not just dancing in public or filming yourself at the gym.
Stop it. Get some help.
This year, I saw an entire theatrical release gross well over $1 billion while telling its audience that the most important thing in the world is themselves. It got me thinking about a certain segment of the social media landscape known as the Manosphere, and how it pretty much sells the same selfish snake oil. Listen, my apologies if you don't absolutely adore alliteration, as I am always absurdly abusing it. Today, let's examine that film and those boys and the self-centered message they both hawk. Now, I'm going to take a brief moment to be selfish. I need you to hit the like button. I had to watch this movie twice and watch hours of Manosphere stuff. Please hit the button. Now, I don't like to be 100% negative, so we're going to start with the sandwich method. First, I'm going to point to the valid places these movements came from. Then, yes, I am going to go full Emerald City and crap all over their faces. But then, because I'm a problem solver, not just a problem identifier, I'm going to spend some time talking about what you could be doing with your life if it isn't worshiping yourself. Before any of that, I want to talk to you about my desk. YouTube can be really cool because people will offer to send you stuff. But then you have to review it on camera, and it might be something you don't even use, and that can feel a little icky. One such company, FlexiSpot, offered to send me a standing desk, and I retorted, I already own more than one of your desks that I paid for with my own money. Having just read The Art of the Deal, I convinced them to sponsor the video, and they went for it. Easiest job ever. Before I ever made a single video, I really was in the market for a standing desk for my wife. She wanted one for a makeup station so she could get ready without getting up and down. I did a bunch of comparisons and I wound up on this, the FlexiSpot Model EW8. You got a bunch of preset height adjustments, handy USB chargers right in the front, including a super fast USB-C. You got a big work area, drawer, this is my drawer of shame. I got her one, I was immediately jealous, so I got myself one, which I use in the more traditional fashion. A lot of people are working from home these days, and you might want to upgrade from working at your kitchen counter. This desk is a great solution, but a standing desk is more than just for an office. Most recently, we got a third one that my daughter uses for school. This week, FlexiSpot has a lot of great Black Friday deals going on. There are links below. You should definitely check it out. Something that should be mentioned about both the Manosphere and fourth wave feminism is that they didn't arise from nothing. I disagree extremely with both, but it's important to note where these things come from and what they do get right. For feminism, it began as a response to a literal lack of rights for women. Couldn't own property, couldn't vote, general societal expectation to stay out of the workforce. Even when they got those rights, plenty of prejudice remained, and so we've gone through a few waves of feminism addressing different issues. Sadly, they lost the plot, and the fight for women to be able to do whatever they wanted, including compete with men in the workforce, turned into a movement where women are only valuable if they are competing with men somehow. What started as being about equality and freedom turned into a crusade for revenge against a patriarchy that doesn't even exist anymore. Now, to be a strong, independent woman, you need to go work for other people.
Congratulations. You played yourself.
Now, the Manosphere can be said to have been born from that revenge. That's certainly what its adherents will say, but it's not quite that simple. While the Me Too movement began painting all men as abusers, or potential abusers, or at least okay with abuse existing somewhere, which is basically just as bad as being an abuser, there has also been a growing lack of direction for men. Some of it self-inflicted. Way back when, the Manosphere was just the men's rights activists who primarily concerned themselves with men's rights in family court. And there were these self-improvement guys teaching you to get in shape, have confidence. Over time, and yes, fueled by misandrous rhetoric, it grew into the disgusting behemoth of today.
Other than that, hell yeah, we go for young girls because they have the purity. We can, you know, teach them things from the get.
What started as dating advice and gym motivation has now turned into a den of hatred for women and anger at men's perceived uselessness in society. Weirdly, the more they focus on those problems, the deeper they fall into them.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
In both camps, there are good ideas. It is, after all, pretty rare you're going to find some kind of movement that is 100% wrong and evil. The question to ask is, how much garbage can be piled on top of something useful before you don't want to dig through it? How much of that trash are you willing to get all over yourself in pursuit of one or two good points, points that you could get somewhere else, sans garbage.
Here are two pictures. One is your locker, the other is a garbage dump in the Philippines. Can you tell which is which?
Barbie Land wanted to be a satire, but didn't want to put in the work to make Barbie Land a mock of reality. One of the laziest and most counterproductive arguments I hear about both of these things is that I'm reading too much into them. Defenders of the Barbie movie tell everyone, oh, it's not that serious. Why are you making such a big deal out of a movie about a toy? Or they will try to suggest that people who think this movie is terrible are somehow triggered.
And their triggeredness is laughable because it's just a silly movie about a doll. Why is it so threatening to you big, strong men?
Unless you're not as big and strong as you claim. Checkmate, toxic masculinity!
You're that smart.
Soundbite arguments and character limits have reduced our collective dialectic abilities to that of the average toddler. I love these type of defenses, though, because they water down the movie in an effort to make it seem innocuous and safe. The trouble with doing so is that you then undermine the bold claims about how this movie is important and has such a good message. What message? I was told it was a joke and that I shouldn't take it seriously. You can't defend something as extremely important, but then claim it's not serious when it's convenient to deflect criticism. But beyond that, the people who claim this movie is just a lighthearted, silly romp, or Henry, what would you call a person like this? Liar, 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 liar. Movie director Greta Gerwig and co-producer Margot Robbie agree this is a feminist film with heavy importance for women.
It most certainly is a feminist film, and I think that the sort of...
Can you explain that? Why? How so?
To me, it's like that's like one slice of the pie. Like it's so...
It's pretty big.
It's a big slice, but like, I don't know.
No, I know it.
I also wouldn't call it a funny film. You just call it a funny film, you almost make it sound like it doesn't have a lot going on, and it does. I actually, when I got asked the other day, like, is Barbie a feminist? I was like, well, she's actually like the level up from that.
Anybody trying to shield it from critique by claiming otherwise should really check with Greta before doing so. Gerwig wants her movie to be taken seriously, but she tried to put a goofy veneer on it. I approach it as the film she intended, and it fails on most fronts, unable to decide what it wants to be or what message it wants to send from scene to scene. The beginning of the movie is the best and most cohesive part. Right away, we're comparing the movie to Space Odyssey, and I thought, okay, this is not going to take itself seriously. This is going to be fun. It then lauds all these amazing accomplishments of the Barbies and says they solved all the problems of the world. Or at least that's what they think in Barbie Land. We get a super campy song that is silly on purpose with the K in pink.
K, cool.
It's an imaginative, surreal world. Plenty of things are played for laughs. I genuinely enjoyed this part of the movie, and the cinematography, sets, dialogue, narration, music, they all work together to make this a funny farce of reality. But after the first part, Bradley, how would you describe it?
That's when things got out of control.
Yeah, unfortunately, Gerwig was trying to make a feminist film and was unable to pull off the satire she maybe wanted in the beginning. If Barbie World had been like Bizarro World, used to lampoon everything in the real world, that could have worked.
Everything's almost like reversed here.
Trouble is, like most writers trying to portray women as extremely empowered, they tried too hard, and the result is comically bad. We see a president who just tells everyone to say nice things to each other. There's an odd scene where Citizens United is referenced. We see the Nobel Prize being handed out to everyone. In trying to make women look good, the movie trivializes the accomplishments they have. The parallels between Barbie World and the real world don't work in any way, and this film fails as satire on every account. So no, it's not an unserious joke, and it's also not deep satire. It's just mismanaged, and tries to jackhammer its message into the script, which is kind of weird because women usually don't like jackhammering. Now, the same accusations can be leveled at the Manosphere. This seems like a good spot to talk about definitions, because this video is comparing two things that are a little lopsided. On the one hand, I'm lumping together a group of male movements and pitting them against one movie, which is kind of a stand-in for fourth wave feminism. I get that. And it's very important to understand that Manosphere is an umbrella term that encompasses various subgroups. There are the men's rights activists, the men go their own way guys, the red pill guys, the alpha males, the sigma males, probably other labels I don't even know about. Somebody's making them up so they can say, I'm not like the other boys. Each of these groups has different aims, and they are distinct from each other. But conveniently for me, and the point of this essay, they all share the same selfish, self-worshipping attitude, as I will be explaining. But sometimes they get the same defense as Barbie. It's not that serious. Brian from the Whatever podcast is just trying to host debates and entertain. The fresh and fit guys are just playing it up for entertainment. Andrew Tate isn't the same guy off camera. That's just a character he plays for views. In his own words, it's just peacocking, something he says all men do.
I believe I speak to the base instincts of
base instincts. 100%.
Base instincts. And one of the base instincts also for men, I don't think a lot of people understand, is to a degree is peacocking and showing off to a degree. And I do that fantastically.
These arguments fail for the exact same reason as the Barbie movie. If your first reaction to critique is to downplay the seriousness of your message, you are undermining that message, which is appropriate in this case because the message is selfish and horrible. But aside from watering down their own points, claiming that the Manosphere isn't that serious suffers the same problem as the similar defense from Barbie stans. It's a lie.
What I said was, why are women less educated now? Okay, they bring less to the table than ever, and yet they still actually demand more from men than they used to.
Even casual observation will tell you these men are fully serious about what they think makes a high-value man and the evils of modern women. Don't let people deflect arguments by telling you that you're taking it too seriously. Call that person a coward and continue to inspect every message that you're told to consume, even mine. Something we used to regard as villainous was the pure pursuit of power. It was understood that excessive ambition was a bad thing, but now both Barbie feminism and the boyosphere would tell us that power is all that matters. It is essential. What's worse is their reasoning behind seeking power, possibly the most selfish reason of all, extreme independence. Both sides of this gender spat want to be rid of reliance on the other once and for all, and they recognize that they need massive amounts of power to get there. This ultimate independence is ultimately terrible for us, because it keeps us from serving others. But I'll get to that in a later chapter. One of the central themes in Barbie feminism is that men should not be relied upon or served. Women are at their most powerful when they have the power to be independent. Barbie Land is correct when women are fully in charge and don't need the men for anything. And it's spreading to more and more entertainment.
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. It is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Barbie says multiple times that her job is to make women happy and powerful.
We fixed everything so that all women in the real world can be happy and powerful. I'm supposed to help you and make you happy and powerful.
Either way, that power looks so good on you.
Power and influence.
When you look at the boyosphere as a whole, you see two general messages that rise to the surface. The first is that modern women and feminism are the root of everything wrong in the world. We'll cover that later. The second is what some defenders like to call self-improvement, though it's really just the amassing of power. Boys want power over many things, generally 3 areas: power over themselves, power over their immediate environment, and power over women. All of these pursuits are wildly self-serving. Let's look at the high-value man bit that gets tossed about so much. If you watch any of this crap, when they aren't talking about modern women being 304s, they are talking about the importance of being a high-value man. I had to look up what a 304 is. If you type that into a calculator and flip it upside down, it spells hoe. They are using literal grade school insults. It's like lint liquor.
Stinky McStinkface!
You Hoboken.
The phrase high-value man gets used a lot and got extremely popular when Kevin Samuels was using it to describe a very specific type of man when his female callers would ask him for advice on his show. Now it has grown to simply refer to material success. When the boys talk about being high value, they mean in terms of mere dollars. In their mind, high value equates to power, and here is where things get selfish. We'll discuss the shallowness of material crap in a bit, but what you'll see reiterated is that money is essential to be able to do what you want. They seek to have as much control and power over themselves as possible. They encourage men to avoid marriage and even relationships because it's a threat to their money and their time. A woman is going to divorce you and take all your precious money that you worked so hard for without knowing why you wanted it so badly. A woman is going to monopolize your time and prevent you from grinding and being a hustler top G that you should be for reasons.
I don't even believe you have a plan. I have part of a plan. What percentage? I don't know, 12%.
The Barbie movie sends the same message. It's important to go to work and have a powerful, high-paying job. You need to have the freedom and ability to serve yourself and be happy whenever you want. Mom Barbie is quickly shuffled off. She's weird. A woman who would be tied down to a child or a man is weird. The intro straight up equates motherhood to being a caveman. Ferrara's husband is the ideal husband if you must have one. He's harmless. Every night is girls' night.
Every night is girls' night.
Every night. Forever.
C.S. Lewis wrote this excellent book called The Screw Tape Letters. It's a collection of letters from one demon to another, instructions on how to ruin a person's life and control them. In one letter, Screwtape advises his protege to convince his human that his time is completely his own, and that any obligation to others is a giving up of his own time, that his time is somehow being stolen from him by committing it to others. He advised that the human is easier to control this way because he is angry, always. Like, why do you think this happened?
Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
This absolute control over oneself and one's time is impossible, so chasing it forever will keep you mad. But the high value status and pursuit of power is also about control of a man's immediate environment. The boyosphere is obsessed with status and money, which are used to control the people around them.
What does top G mean? What does that mean to you?
A fucking top gangster, like a top G.
But what does that mean?
A top male, a high value
alpha male.
The specific language of being an alpha male is falling out of favor because it's not only scientifically inaccurate, but it's also been rightly mocked to death. But the attitude has not disappeared. These lads want status and power for the control and supposed respect it gives them. Again, this is entirely self-serving. What good is the kind of respect you get when it's derived from money, job titles? I've never seen this challenged in the sphere. They just assume it's inherently a good thing to have and there can't be enough. But really, ask yourself what good respect does, especially the kind these guys talk about. The respect of a position or status or accumulation of money. You'll notice they don't say a man should want to be respected as a good leader, a reliable friend, wise counsel when needed.
It's, oh, you want more women in your life? You want more success in your life? You want better cars, bigger things, bigger dreams, more beautiful women in your life? Follow these steps.
They are really referring not to respect, but groveling and simping by peers and underlings.
Females are the ultimate status symbol. People think I'm running, listen, people think I'm running around with these hoes because I like sex. That's nothing to do with the reason why I'm running around with these bitches. I got these bitches just so everyone knows who the Dawn is. I'm putting these pictures up on Twitter so you motherfuckers know who the fucking man is.
You know, for all the boy hate against simping for e-girls, their own definition of respect bears little difference to simping, except for the lack of lust. But lust plays into the final sphere, see what I did there, of control for these kids. They want power over women. Even the ones that advise you to flee women are still controlled by thoughts of them, and it grates them. They ultimately want the power to stop wanting women, but they can't. It's a very strange group of contradictions because they don't want a gold-digging 304, but the things they claim to be high value are the things that attract those women. They don't want to be controlled by women, but thoughts control their every thought. The pursuit of power is never about others. It is solely about themselves. Of course, the Barbie movie mirrors this to a T, or an H, which is a mirror of a sideways T.
Sometimes I'll start a sentence, and I don't even know where it's going. I just hope I find it along the way.
Conveniently for us, Margot straight up tells us the key for women is being happy and powerful. Multiple times. As I said earlier, the beginning of the movie is very fun, and if Gerwig had been able to keep her story straight, that beginning portion wouldn't be up for lampooning, because it was supposed to be an anti-reality. The trouble is that the real world is not opposite of Barbie Land in any way. So when we see in the beginning and end that Barbie Utopia is about women being in positions of power, that's what the movie really wants to tell you. It also doesn't want their power challenged in any way. In the beginning, we see the men in full subservitude, but it's played for laughs. The women are in full power over the men, and that's okay. In the end, they knew they were supposed to present like a message of equality, but couldn't help themselves from knocking the Kens down one more time. When one Ken says, well, now he can be on the Supreme Court, they patronizingly tell him maybe he can have a lower circuit position. Something that runs through modern writers like Gerwig, who want desperately to empower one group or another, is that they can't bear the sight of their sacred cows being seen as lesser for even a second, even if that creates a springboard for eventual growth and more power. When Ken is in the real world, where the patriarchy is supposedly dominating and oppressing women and causing them to live in a state of unrealistic expectations and cognitive oh my god. I mean, that speech was insane. Like, it was lifted straight from Tumblr, right? It had to be. Sorry. When Ken is there, he wants to be a doctor and runs into a female doctor. She's the only one we see, and it is confirmed that he can't be a doctor just because he's a man. Gerwig wanted to display women in glorious positions of power every second of the movie, and is obsessed with female power to the extent that she included a female doctor that contradicts her message about the dreaded patriarchy. When Margot Barbie gets back to the Barbie land and sees that the women are no longer in a position of absolute authority, she sees that as a huge problem. And women are told through the movie that this situation is not desirable in any way, and only women who are brainwashed would ever want to behave like these women. Just like the Boyosphere, we are told it is wrong and shameful to want to serve someone else in any capacity or service.
Here's a good argument for why eating pussy is gay. Chat. Try right now, alone in your room or wherever you're watching this. Gee, the chat is just right now. Try to look masculine eating. There's no way to do it.
It's different rules for men. You know what I'm saying? You know, you gotta understand. Like, you know, we you know, we the king. You know what I'm saying? So we, you know, there's some things that y'all might not want to do or want to do. It gotta get done. You know what I'm saying? I just can't do what you want me to do.
Oh, it's just so childish. Wayne. What's the proper attitude in this situation?
I put her on my plate, then I do the dishes.
This Barbie is dressed like a sexy maid, and after she is snapped out of her trance with the power of a speech about the dualities of woman, oh my goodness! This movie's so stupid. Like, politics aside, none of this has been thought through in any way. This is what happens when you surround yourself with people who clap like seals and bobblehead to every idea that you have. I'm sorry, we were talking about Maid Barbie. She suddenly says she would never dress like this, and Ferrara assures her, of course you wouldn't. You're an astrophysicist. The idea of serving someone sexually is incompatible with having a STEM job because the job is what gives you meaning and purpose, not serving another person. In the beginning, we see that Barbie has power over Ken because she is always having a good day, and he only has a good day when she looks at him, which she does not do so as to maintain power. This movie reminds you again and again that you need to be happy, and the path to happiness is in power. In the case of Barbie and the boys, we see that they view power as a means to independence, which is the ultimate goal. Most of the Boyosphere hates dating and marriage and wants you to be in full control over your time and money. You need to be independent.
So you should always be working towards freedom. And I mean freedom with your time. Do what you want. Freedom with your location. Go where you want.
And the same goes for women of Barbie. Pregnant Barbie is weird and pushed off screen. All the Barbies have high-powered jobs. America Ferrara's husband is an idiot who is on screen for about 90 seconds, and she doesn't require him for anything, or even want his help as far as we can tell. In the end, Barbie meets her ultimate goal, self-actualization. She has met her purpose of loving herself and serving herself. She is empowered. The boys sell the same card of manure. If you're high value, you are powerful and answer to no one. You have achieved ultimate independence. Of course, none of this is real. And that is, I believe, one of the roots of the misogyny and misandry so prevalent in these movements. Gerwig and the fourth wave feminists and the Manosphere seek the ultimate power of self-service. Total independence, but they can't have it. Not only do we need each other for, basic biological reasons, it goes beyond that. And each of us has power in our own way that the other is jealous of. Boys are furious that women essentially control the dating market. This is why they glory in the ability to go their own way, or encourage each other to grab their passport and go where they have more power. They don't like the power imbalance that women have in social settings. On the other side, Barbie feminism is enraged that men hold all the powerful jobs. You'll notice from my claw hands that I think that is a fully subjective idea. But the point is that they see a power imbalance and will be angry until they feel that it has been remedied, or they at least are on the winning side. The second best quote I have about this is a scene from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. Yes, seriously. The Portacalises have a great dynamic, and in one scene, main character Tula is upset. Her father will not bless her marriage to a non-Greek, and she has to obey because he is the head of the house. Her mother replies that a man is indeed the head, but a woman is the neck, and she can point the head in any direction she wants. It's funny and true. We all have our own power, but these two movements are so busy being jealous of each other they don't see their own and how it might be used for collaboration. That's the second best quote. The best quote on this is from the Bible. Paul, let him have it.
Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ.
There's more there, clarifying explicitly that husbands and wives should submit to each other and care for one another. But the power imbalance is actually important for each side to maintain their own power. We've seen that power is one of the most important things to both the Manosphere and Barbie feminism. The thing about power is that you have to be defending it from someone. And in much the same way that Oceania is at war with Eurasia, the boys and the Barbies are at war with modern feminism and the patriarchy, respectively. This, again, is an incredibly selfish way to view the world. Only narcissistic psychos think everybody cares about them enough to be out to get them. A quote that I find very optimistic, even though it doesn't sound that way, is this one attributed to Lao Tzu. People aren't against you. They're for themselves. It's rather freeing, in a way, to realize that your actions and general presence aren't as important to the world as you think. So you can stop worrying so much about that gaffe or that supposed enemy of yours. A big facet of main character syndrome is the idea that you are so important that any slight or inconvenience is actually a personal attack. It was quickly mocked out of use, but the term microaggression was an example of this. Thinking that everything that disturbed you in the slightest way was an aggression on the part of others, instead of realizing that there are indeed other people in the world besides you, and they are going about their own day, being the main character in their own life. The Barbie movie runs with this idea throughout the movie, asserting that there is a vague but very real patriarchy that is out to hold women back. The theme culminates in one of the most insane speeches captured on film, with America Ferrera's character describing how difficult it is to be a woman. Ferrera's character and her daughters both think everyone is out to get them, and they never discover differently during the movie.
You have to never get old. Never be rude.
Right on its face, this screed makes no sense. It purports to list a bunch of contradicting expectations the world puts on women, but it falls apart immediately when you see that no single entity is expecting both contradicting points. Oh sure, different people expect different things, but that's not the same thing as a single person telling you
You have to be thin, but not too thin. And you can never say you want to be thin.
It's not just the contradictions. This attitude is peak main character syndrome, believing that all the various wants and messages in the world apply to you. Everyone is talking about you. All through the movie, we see no evidence of this equal patriarchy. Oh, we are told over and over that it exists, but we never see it. Gerwig just assumes you know that it's there. Unfortunately, we are actually given much more evidence that it does not exist. When asked directly, one male stand-in assures Ken it does exist. They're just hiding it better now. And is this patriarchy in the room with us right now? It has to exist for narcissistic Barbie feminism to work, though. The movie teaches you that you are so important that the world cares enough to want to hold you down, lest your amazing light outshine them or something. The murky moral of the movie is that you need to accept yourself and how amazing you already are and experience more life for yourself. I think they were going for like an existential message, but that must have also been crushed by the patriarchy. But as silly as the fight against the imaginary patriarchy is, and as stupid as the speech is, the real issue is the victim mentality this creates. For a few lucky folks at the top, victim status can be weaponized. That's why they like it. But the issue is that the victim status is harmful to most of the group they claim to be fighting for. By telling girls there is an evil, unseen, ever-present patriarchy out to get them, you're basically telling them there's no need to try. Why bother when patriarchy is just going to hold them back? Or you create angry soldiers in the gender war who do go on to career success, not because it is personally fulfilling to do so, but because they're winning a skirmish against the patriarchy. They carry an angry attitude with them, cagey and suspicious of anyone who might be trying to hold them back, even though no one cares enough to do so. Often this attitude ends up working against them. You've met men and women like this, bitter individuals who think the world is out to get them. They aren't fun to be around, are they? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy as they are ostracized because of their constant bitter attitude. So they don't succeed in what they're working at, which just fuels their idea that the world or the patriarchy or whatever is holding them back. It's a vicious cycle, and it's harming a lot of people. They carry around a constant selfish attitude. Everything is about me. No one is noticing me. Everyone is out to get me. This is why I have nothing but disdain for the Boyosphere. They are creating a generation of young men who think they are victims. They see the entire female sex as evil predators who are out to get them or ignore them on purpose. Their worldview centers on themselves, and anything they can't have is because women have taken it from them.
The problem is the chicks. And you gotta blame them.
Let's have a look, in case you doubt. Here is a channel called Manhood. Let's check the video tab. Women, 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 women. Legion of Men. Channel description. Rehabilitating men, masculinity, and brotherhood. Video tab is about 60% women, which is one of the better ones, honestly. The rest is about Western culture being terrible and making men weak, and there's a smattering of videos about self-improvement. That's why I included this one. Again, you decide if wading through the crap is worth the good stuff. Man Guide, a channel, quote, dedicated to helping young men make better decisions. Women, 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 women. I'm not sure how that's helping men. Fresh and Fit, modern women, bimbos, 304s, women, women, women. Better Bachelor, a large channel. Women, 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 avoid women. Taylor the Fiend, women, 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 women. Moa Podcast. Women, women, women. The Rational Male, women, 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 women. Michael Sartain, women, 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 women.
Is that enough? Should I keep going?
I'm sorry, I know that was long. I just wanted to illustrate the point that it's not isolated and the channels aren't tiny outliers. This is what the YouTube algorithm sent me when I started watching this stuff. There's a lot of talk in America about white male privilege, this idea that white men have some kind of cheat code or are playing on easy mode because the world is tailored to them. Some people have retorted that there is no actual privilege, but instead a lack of disadvantage that is then viewed as privilege by people with the disadvantage. I disagree with both of these ideas. It's not that we lack disadvantages. Everybody's got disadvantages of some kind. You probably think yours is worse because you live with it every day. No, what white men lack is being told by other white men how hard we have it and how they are out to get us. That's what we are privileged to be without. The Barbie movie is women telling other women how the patriarchy is out to get them. And it's mirrored in all of entertainment and news and politics every day. Can you imagine what that does to girls who hear that their whole life? Until the Manosphere, guys didn't have that. They didn't have a nebulous enemy to blame things on. They didn't have any reason for why things went wrong other than plain bad luck or their own inadequacy, which they could then improve. You can argue that there have been times where it went too far and maybe we told guys to man up a little bit too much, but you can't say that men were ever weakened from within by assuring each other that it's not their fault, the world is just out to get them. Until now. This fella, Rollo Tomasi, talks about the dangers of marriage, at least 50% of his airtime. He constantly warns young men that they are at risk of having everything taken from them on a whim by predatory women. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and I haven't come across a segment yet where he describes how to keep a strong marriage or be a better man with better character. The most famous victim is, of course, Andrew Tate, which I am trying to use sparingly in this video because he does not represent the entire Boyosphere, and I don't want him to be used as a shield to disregard the rest of the children who say the same things as him, just not as charismatically. He has invented the Matrix, who is out to get him and stop him from telling everyone the real truth. The real truth, by the way, is that you need to bang models and drive sports cars. It's a lovely plan because his sycophants now forgive and excuse anything he does or says because it's all just part of the evil matrix that wants to take him down. Fresh and Fit and the Whatever podcast have on good-looking idiots whose job is to get made fun of for a couple hours and be a stand-in for modern women. So their mostly male audience can smoke that copium and tell themselves life isn't going how they want because of these TikToks. Most of the girls on these shows are on OnlyFans, and they only go on the show because their subscriber count goes way up after the show, because the Manosphere isn't actually about helping men. The victim mentality shapes everything these guys do. I saw an interview on the Patrick Bet-David podcast. He had a former mobster on. He asked this guy, what led you to the mob? And he said he felt like he had to because the cops were out to get him. He knew this to be true in his heart because he had been told that all his life. Cops are out to get you. He didn't feel like he was going into crime. He felt forced into it because they were out to get him. When you focus on yourself 24 hours a day, you start to think everyone else is too. And then it's not a far jump to think that anyone who doesn't agree that you are obviously the main character must be a hater who is out to get you. Anytime I mention philosophy, I usually bring up Stoicism. It's my favorite. Being a Christian, it's a secular philosophy that aligns very closely with a biblical worldview. One thing I like so much about it, other than it's like immediately applicable, is that it's about character. Seneca's version of a happy life isn't about status symbols or artifacts of wealth. Marcus Aurelius doesn't advise that you have the hottest women around so that other men know what a top dog you are. In fact, Epictetus advises that gaining approval from others has a cost, and you should always assess that cost. Part 25 of his Enchiridion is about the value of things and uses the illustration of buying lettuces and how you have to pay for them. He says if you choose not to get the lettuces, you still have the money. You haven't lost anything. He says this to cement his point about being jealous of people who have status and wealth, because if you don't have those things, you also didn't have to do the same things that person did to get them. He says you might not get invited to fancy dinners, but you also don't have to flatter the host or suffer their presence. Everything has a cost. Usually external validation is the most costly thing of all. Unfortunately, both the Manosphere and Barbie feminism will tell you there isn't a choice at all. You know you're successful and worth something when you have the external proof of it. You know what? Let's just let the top G himself explain what makes you a successful man.
So let's compare me to the manager we talked about earlier. I'm a manager at a BMW and a fat wife. And then you have me, the Don, who turns up on the Amalfi Coast in a fucking Lamborghini with some new bitch to meet a new bitch to fuck both bitches. And I can stay there as long as I want because my card always works when I pay the hotel and nobody can say shit to me because I'm too fucking big and mean to fuck with. Who's successful?
It's perfectly fine for you to be pissed off. It's perfectly fine for you to look around at your life, look at the girl you're fucking, look at the house you live in, look at the car you drive, and get pissed off and go, you know what, I want a hotter bitch. I want a fucking nicer house, and I want a faster car. And I wanted the life I now have. Now I wake up in one of my 3 mansions with one of my 7 supercars and one of my 15 women.
I can't think of many things that are more depressing than the knowledge that hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of young men watch and agree with that kind of shallow nonsense. And there is a reason that I have to write everything down. Because if I just let myself freewheel after watching that, there would be excessive amounts of shouting and curse words. It's not a good look. This video, I put this off for so long because it was genuinely sad and upsetting to do the research of watching these pieces of shit. When you look across the Manosphere, the goal is wealth and status. But what is the point? Wealth to buy crap that other people, usually guys, can admire? So you can feel good knowing you have a thing that other people don't have? It's so childish. When you look at especially Tate, the list of things that he claims makes you a man, muscles, money, hot chicks, connections to do deals, cigars, fast cars, that is the exact same list that a 13-year-old boy would make. Of course, Barbie feminism is selling the same crap. At first, it looks like the materialism is part of the satire, but when things start to go wrong, 2 out of 3 of them are physical problems that make Barbie less pretty. Flat feet and cellulite. Barbie is alarmed because she is no longer physically beautiful. We've already seen that her desirability to and power to reject the Kens is how we know she is beautiful. In a weird twist, Barbie needs a Ken around to validate her. Weird Barbie is weird because she is no longer pretty. When Margot Barbie is crying at the end, she laments,
"I'm not pretty anymore."
The movie attempts to hang the light shade with narrator Helen Mirren telling us it's hard to call Margot ugly, but the issue is that all the film's plots revolve around beauty and things.
Wait until you see my dream house. Everything I've bought and owned will totally inspire you. And we can change clothes again.
Why are the positions these Barbies hold in Barbie Land good? Because other people have deemed them so. Part of the structural problem this movie suffers from so much is that the Barbies have no personality or character, which is why none of the social commentary works, and it's why Barbie only has external things. The movie ends not with Barbie realizing that relationships are what make life meaningful, or any kind of character growth or existential discovery. No, her lesson is that real life is desirable because there are things she hasn't done yet. There are new possibilities and experiences for her to accumulate. For both of these groups, the real value in a thing is how it makes other people feel about you. Does this make me look desirable, sexy, rich, important, high status, in authority? What a sad way to go about making your decisions. Whew, it's a new day. Now the negative bits are over, we can get to the good stuff. This is my favorite part. I think it's a rather obvious statement to say, being selfish is bad, but hopefully we've shown that these two movements, fourth wave feminism and the Manosphere, are extremely selfish at their core, and no scraps of good coming from them in their current state can redeem their overall message of self-worship and, honestly, downright hedonism. So the question remains, what should we be doing with our lives? What is the meaning of life if it isn't to serve ourselves? Now, the way I've framed that question should be a clue that I think the meaning of life is to serve others. In the next and final chapter, I have some tangible, everyday ways you can serve others. But in this section, I want you to know that I'm not just pulling this out of the ether. I can't take credit for telling you something that basically every world religion and major school of thought agrees on. That selflessness and service to others is one of the top, if not the best, virtues a person can have. Islam can be a touchy subject in America, so it may be surprising that a good portion of the Quran is about humility, service, and duty. One of their biggest observations of the year is Ramadan, a time of intense prayer and fasting. Right after Ramadan is a holiday called Eid al-Fitr. Fasting is forbidden, and my understanding is that it's a large-scale celebration to mark the end of Ramadan in much the same way that Catholics end Lent. The way to celebrate Eid al-Fitr is to give to charity or to less fortunate neighbors. In major Muslim countries, this is often a national holiday, and neighbors offer food and drinks to each other, and the focus is on giving to others. In some places, a gift to charity of some kind is required before offering the Eid prayer. The second Eid is Eid al-Adha. This commemorates Abraham's son being spared when he showed the willingness to sacrifice him to God. Since it is celebrating sacrifice, it is again fitting that a big portion of the holiday is the giving to less fortunate and sharing with friends, family, and neighbors. The Quran itself speaks to this as well. Chapter 18, verse 46 states that wealth and children are the adornments of this worldly life, but everlasting good deeds are far better with your Lord in reward and hope. Chapter 57, verse 20 reiterates this idea, saying that boasting about wealth and children is like the rain falling and producing plants, which the farmer is delighted by, but then they wither away and are nothing. Chapter 5, verse 2 states that you are to help one another in righteousness and piety, but not help each other in sin and transgression. And chapter 63, verse 10 tells you to spend your life and money in the way Allah wants, because it is not yours, it has been provided to you. Now, I could keep going, but let's move on to Hinduism. The Bhagavad Gita is a very cool book, wisdom from Krishna in the form of a discussion, a story where Krishna is disguised and giving advice to Prince Arjuna as he is about to wage war against his family. It should come as no surprise to you that the whole idea of karma fuels a doctrine of selflessness and service and, generally putting good out into the world. But let's look at some of Krishna's words. What does he say is in the mode of goodness, action that is in accordance with the scriptures, free from attachment and aversion, and is done without desire for rewards. Also, charity given to a worthy person, simply because it is right to give without consideration of anything in return. You know, an interesting lesson in the Gita is that you are to do your duty to the best of your ability, not because of some future reward, but simply because it is the right thing to do. If you're a soldier, be the best soldier. If you're a cobbler, be the best cobbler. If we take that logic and apply it to manhood, a man should be the best man he can. Now, that's a very subjective idea, but I would argue that you'd be really hard-pressed to find many people in the world who would list bangs models or owns a fleet of supercars as ideal traits of a man. Oftentimes, men think they are supposed to be leaders, which, I tend to agree with. However, you have to ask yourself, what does a leader do? Why does a leader need to exist? It is to ensure the success of whatever group he is leading. If the success of the group is the goal, then the group is more important than the leader. So by definition, if the leader is not serving the group over himself, then he is failing at his job. If you believe that your job as a man is to lead, and you are using that leadership position to benefit yourself and not acting in service to those you are leading, then you have failed. You are a failure as a man. Christianity is also big on service to others and not to self. Jesus told his followers they must die to themselves and live in him. He set an example for this by calling himself a king, but washing the feet of his followers. He told them to seat themselves at low positions at a table instead of self-aggrandized high positions. He told them anyone who wants to be a leader must be a servant to all. And it's not just New Testament Jesus. The Old Testament and Jewish tradition tell a story about King David, one of the heroes of faith, dancing in the streets to worship God. When the daughter of the former king became angry with him because he wasn't acting regally, he admonished her and told her he would become even more undignified if it meant showing where proper worship should be directed. Mosaic law forbade Jews from charging usury to their fellows and forbade them from mistreating foreigners, reminding them that most of their history is being foreigners. Another king, Solomon, gave advice about one person giving freely and yet gaining more, while another person holds unduly but continues to want. A generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Similar to Islam, Christianity and Judaism hold that all possessions belong to God and are only ours to steward for a while. Buddhism's final goal is the state of nirvana, a transcendent state where one has no wants or sense of self. It is total detachment from the world, liberation from the karmic cycle. With this in mind, it should not be surprising that the sutras are crammed with encouragement to serve others. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this. I kind of feel like Buddhism and selflessness are pretty firmly established together. And that's 5 big ones. I think I covered about 6 billion people right there. It all says the same thing. Self is bad. Material things are temporary. Serve others. So service is the key. Now for the call to action, ways to serve. Regular viewers of the channel are thinking, oh, Greg's going to talk about foster care. And I am not going to talk about that right away. That's a big commitment. I fully understand that. So let's start easy with 2 ways you can be serving people starting today. Number 1, this is so easy. Compliment people. I don't know about the rest of the world, but I'm told in America we are having a loneliness epidemic. So make a goal, say 5 to start. Make a point each day to compliment 5 people. Could be something intangible like their personality or the work that they're doing, or don't be afraid to get surface level on this one. Tell somebody their clothes look great or their hair or whatever. Now this seems really simple, but the only way that you can compliment people is if you're paying attention to them, not yourself. If you're trying to meet a compliment quota during the day, you will have to be on the lookout for things to compliment, which means you will be paying attention to the world around you and the people around you. The nice words are cool. You'll be shocked at how a simple expression of genuine kindness will really affect some people, which should tell you how little they receive them. But what's really important here is how the service affects you. And this is where the idea of service gets a little paradoxical. I said it's not about you, but it kind of is. Like, you should be improving your character. That's just an inherently good thing to do. And serving others is like spiritual steroids. Yes, you're doing it because it's right and good for others, but it also makes you a better person at the same time. It's a pretty cool deal. Looking out for ways to serve others is a solid way to get out of your own head and stop thinking of yourself as the main character. Addendum step 1B is to say, Natalie, can you handle this one? Thank you. Yes, be more grateful, which is fitting because this video is dropping right in front of Thanksgiving. Again, this only works because you have to be looking at what other people are doing if you're going to thank them for doing it. I'm serious, make a quota. There's nothing wrong with that. For example, I am so grateful that you have watched this video this far. There's one already. And I'm very thankful to everyone who watches and likes and comments, even the ones that respectfully disagree with me, because it helps me make better videos in the future. Stop it! The second way is to keep some cash on you for the specific purpose of giving it away. Each week or month or whatever, go pull some cash, just some 5s or 10s, keep them on you specifically so that when you see someone asking for money, you can give it to them. Do not spend this money for any other reason. The money is dead to you. Once again, this is just as much about your character as it is about helping the recipient of the cash. It's a physical reminder that your money ultimately isn't yours. You just get to hold on to it for a while. It is yet another thing that will pull you out of your own head and be looking out for the otherwise invisible people who need some cash. Well, what if they do something silly with the money? What if they waste it? Like you weren't going to waste $10 this month? Come on. And while I encourage you to donate or tithe or whatever, doing it digitally is very easy. There is something different about giving away your money with your own hand directly to another human. Direct human contact plays into the last thing, and yeah, some of this is going to be foster care. We all have our pet thing, okay? That's my thing. Or it was, because I recently had to give up my license because we adopted our foster child and the state won't let me have more than 6 kids. So now I advocate for the system because they need help real bad. Look, there are a lot of excuses and reasons not to do it, but I can tell you they fall away real quick when you take the plunge. But the point here is to give of your time and attention in some way. Giving away money to an organization is great, but again, there's something different about personally doing the work. So whether you're working with kids somehow, or a food pantry, or a highway cleanup, or a nursing home, or your church, or whatever, there are people, real people who need serving, and you might not know it yet, but you need to serve them personally. Your spirit needs it. Well, we made it a long way. Let me know in the comments real ways that you can get out and serve in your community, or let me know your thoughts on the movie or the Manosphere. I appreciate you watching. That's 2, right? And I'll see you next time.